I'm Mark Green, and I'll take you on an unbelievable ride meeting inspiring automotive enthusiasts. These are the movers and shakers, industry leaders, racers, builders, and the drivers in the automotive industry and car culture. I'll reveal their passions for automobiles and much, much more in their career choices and their personal journeys. Together, we'll unveil their triumphs and tragedies, successes and failures, and drive deep into their lives as they share their stories. You get to ride along with me on the inspirational journey, and together, we'll put the pedal to the metal here on Cars Yeah! Previously on Cars Yeah! I'm in one of my favorite places, and you're going to get to go inside. Let's go. I brought my checkbook. There's always something to buy here, right? Tell our viewers why it's called a Fat Boy.
Because it's fat. I mean, 200 mile an hour we went in the car, you know, with the top down.
I understand it belongs to some guy named Jerry.
It's a 19-coat process done in 4 separate stages to get here.
It's absolutely stunning. So Bruce, as if the showroom, the paint and body shop, the museum aren't enough, we're back in one of my favorite parts of Canepa, and that is the race car fabrication, restoration, builds. There are some incredible cars, but this car is one of the holy grails of racing. Tell our viewers about this piece of magic.
Well, this is the Penske Porsche 917-30 that Mark Donohue won the Can-Am Championship in.
Yeah.
And didn't just win it, basically won every race. And not only did he win all the races, he lapped the entire field every race. Fulmer said there was one race he stayed in the same lap in a 917-10.
Wow.
And this is the holy grail of Porsches. There's no question. You know, this car was built and raced in 1973. It made 1,500 horsepower in 1973. It weighed 1,900 pounds. It's 0 to 100 miles an hour in 2.8 seconds. It's 0 to 150 in 5.5 seconds. And it's 0 to 200 in 10.7.
Donohue was a god.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he got in this car and could even manage it.
Well, and he had a lot to do with the engineering and design of it, because the 917-10 was a shorter version of this with less horsepower, with not as good aerodynamics. And Mark was an engineer, and they basically developed this car with Porsche and came back and, you know, destroyed a Can-Am series, basically.
Right.
When we tested at Laguna Seca, I would come out of turn 11 and it would leave black lines with those 20-inch wide tires all the way up the entire front straightaway, all the way over the hill, and all the way down the other side, every gear.
You're kidding.
And Donohue wrote in his book, it was the only car he ever drove that would spin the tires at 200 mile an hour, and it does.
That's phenomenal.
It is.
Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah. Porsche should really put big badges of honor on their chests that they came up with this and then found a guy like Mark to drive it.
Yeah. After this car raced in the Can-Am series, they took this car to Talladega and set the closed course record. This car went 221 at Talladega. Wow. 221 with this lawn chair. I call these motorized lawn chairs.
Lawn chairs, yeah.
but it went 221 then, so it's an amazing piece. And we were fortunate to be able to restore it ground up. We've now basically forming up a brand new original body off original molds, all in the original gel coat, all in the original materials, and it'll have all new bodywork on it now, and that bodywork will get painted back to the Cam 2 specs and hang on a wall.
Wow, yeah, wall art, very cool. I want to go over and look at some of the other cars you have in here. You have a really cool stacking system. Some people stack books, you stack cars in your shop. Take a look at this over here, all right?
All right.
All right, let's go.
Sounds good.
Lead the way. Every time I come to visit your shop, I like to come back in this room because there's always a bunch of cars just kind of lined up here, a lot of really cool cars. And then there's the wall behind us. I mentioned stacking books, you stack cars because you've got so many cars in here. There's some special cars in here. Just real quickly kind of run me through some of the very unique cars. And this blue Corvette, not like any Corvette I've ever seen.
Well, you know, that was John Paul in the day was trying to find an advantage over the Porsches. He'd been driving RSRs, 934s, and went to Bob Riley, and they designed a tube-frame Corvette, of which 2 were built, and it's a 900 horsepower monster.
Oh, gosh.
And it was faster than the 935s, wasn't as reliable, so it had an okay, a bunch of outings, but when it ran, it was the terror on the track, along with John Paul. So
yeah, no kidding.
We're now restoring it ground up, and it'll be, nobody's seen this car in 20 plus years, I don't think, so it'll be, it'll end up hopefully on a racetrack and being used again and visible in the historic races.
Exactly. There's a little silver Porsche over here next to me, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a Carrera GT, which is kind of the last analog Porsche, and as we all know, those things make good sounds and go fast, and that happens to belong to Mr. Keith Crane from Automotive News.
Oh, that magazine I've been getting for 40 years, I think.
He collects a few cars.
Does he?
He's definitely one of my favorite car guys.
Yeah.
He's a mentor in the car world.
He's a great guy. In fact, I think you and I have shared a dinner in Las Vegas, SEMA.
Exactly.
The high rise there. He has that wonderful dinner where we get to sit down and enjoy all these car people and have a meal. He's an awesome guy.
He's a great guy.
He's great.
He really is.
And a couple other cars in here, just kind of maybe run through a few.
Oh my God, it's there's no end to it. There's a Danny and Gaius Interscope 935 that we restored. There's a P1 McLaren GTR, which is only 40 in the world.
40? Yeah.
Yeah. The 962 Group C car that I race in the historics, which is all apart right now.
Right.
There's my original 935 back there it's supposed to be serviced. My cars seem to take the longest to get worked on.
Well, it's like the cobbler's kids never wear shoes, right?
I figured this out. I'm going to put another name on each car.
There you go.
And see if that helps.
Okay, put my name on it, will you?
Okay, I'll do that. We'll put
Always
Mark
I'll feel
Green.
good. Mark
I'll let
Green.
you know if it improves things. Now, I have to send you the bill if I do that.
Oh, ouch.
So, that's just so you're ready for that.
Okay, well, I'll get ready. Well, on my show, my podcast, I let all my guests pick a car that I'm going to buy them. And I've had a fair number of people pick cars that I know you have, and I say, okay, I'll give Bruce a call. He'll ship the car out to you. You haven't gotten the call from me, have you? I've been a little slow to get on the phone.
A little slow, yeah.
Yeah, but if you had to pick one of these cars in here, let's say in this room, or let's say any of the cars we've seen today, because we've seen some incredible cars today. If you had to pick one car for Mark Green to drive, knowing me as you have, we've known each other for almost 20 years now, which car do you think I should be in?
Actually, I think it's pretty easy. You're a Porsche guy.
I am.
You have a Porsche.
I do.
The ultimate Porsche is a 959.
Yeah.
The ultimate 959 is an SC.
SC, there you go.
Is that easy?
You could paint it that orange crushed color like my car.
We could do that.
Because that's only a 6-stage, not a 19-stage
Right.
or a 1,000-stage paint. So I think you could, okay.
We could do that.
I'm going to put that on my wish list.
Please.
Yeah, okay.
Please do that.
I'll do that, absolutely. Cool.
All right.
One thing I want to look at too today is engine room. And then I'm also going to talk with a young man you have working here, Zach Todd. He's been a guest on my show. He does your marketing. He does incredible photography. I'm going to spend a little time with him today too, okay?
Fantastic.
We'll do that.
All right.
Let's go. So the most important part, I think, of any car is the power plant. And you guys do everything here when it comes to engines. That orange car we saw out there, Jerry's car, here's the engine to this car, completely being redone. You do everything from the ground up when it comes to a car's engine, right?
Well, we originally didn't intend to have an engine shop, but the reality is that a lot of these old engines, especially the old Porsche engines, the race Porsche engines from 934s to 917s, there's very few people left either rebuilding these and or even alive to rebuild them. And we were extremely fortunate that a gentleman by the name of Gustav Nietzsche, who was one of the senior engine builders at Porsche in the day, decided that he wanted to come and work here.
Wow. This touches on something that I haven't talked about today, but your industry, are there enough young people coming into this trade to fill the needs of all these old cars that we collect these days? Is that a challenge for you?
Hiring people in general is a challenge because I think it's really unfortunate this country doesn't have very sophisticated trade schools. And it's like any industry, it's like any profession. There are naturals. There's guys that work really hard at it and get really great at it, and there's guys that are so-so at it, okay? And our industry is no different. So we're out looking for the best of the best, the way we want to do things here. That's hard to find. I tell guys my biggest job is 24/7, 365 days a year, trying to find one more good guy.
One more guy, yeah.
And we've been doing that for 35 years.
Sure.
And it won't stop. And there are young, talented guys. There are guys that like this industry, but there's not a place for them to learn. And in a business like this, we can't really run a school.
Right.
We do bring guys up. If they've got the talent, they've got some experience, we start bringing them up, but we're not a school. You can't afford to be a school.
Right.
You know, and a customer's not going to pay you to teach another guy. So,
No.
so basically, we hire journeymen, and they're hard to find. Most of them are 50 plus years old. A lot of them came out of racing, and they're tired of, you know, living in an apartment and in a suitcase and not having any kind of house to even go to because they raced, you know, all week and the weekends, etc. So a lot of our guys came from that area, but it's really hard to find people.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people feel like they go off to a school to learn something and they're experts in a year, 2 years. You know, the culture's changed some. My dad, I started working when I was 12, and my dad still didn't think I knew a hell of a lot when I was 25, you know?
Sure, yeah.
So,
your long apprenticeship. 10 years long.
Yeah, 10 years long,
Exactly.
and you're just starting, right?
Exactly.
And it's not like that today. Everybody's in a hurry. Everybody wants to go somewhere, and in a year they're an expert at something.
Right.
And these kinds of disciplines, to do these right, take decades to learn.
Long time to
and
learn.
I tell guys, we're all still learning every single day.
Oh, yeah?
Every day.
A lot of things I've learned today, too. Before we leave the engine shop, there's an engine behind you that really caught my eye. This is something really special. Looks like something out of a 917.
It is. This is a 917 engine. This was the first reason Gustav came here, was to teach us how to build these, because he and maybe one or two other people were the last ones. Actually, there's only 2 or 3 people that know how to rebuild these, and most of them are retired at this point. So he agreed. He basically said he would teach us how to rebuild these. And and this is 7 or 8. We're doing 2 of them right now, so we'll have done 8 of them in a short period of time. But it's an amazing piece of machinery. And I go back to that same, it's amazing that this was designed and developed and created from a guy's brain, you know. This was not a computer. This was not rapid tooling. This was none of that. This was all a brain in your hands, you know, using equipment. And they did things that were unheard of. So to operate the cams, because it's a long 12-cylinder motor, the crankshaft has a gear in the center that's not an add-on gear. It was ground into the crank. And today, you're talking about, this is late 60s. Today, there's one company in the world that can duplicate that crankshaft in England, where they make the crank and then go back and grind in the gear.
Wow.
Because that gear operates a gear block that bolts here, and then those gears operate the cams and everything, so there's no load on one end or the other.
Wow.
And they thought about that then, you know.
Again,
and
out of the
created,
mind.
And these motors they're 4.9 liter to 5.4 liter, but these are big engines, and they turn 8,000 RPMs, this big engine.
Wow.
That's a lot of RPMs for a big engine.
Yes.
And with 12 cylinders.
Yes.
And with turbochargers, you're, you know, 1,200 on the low end to 1,500 horsepower. So,
Absolutely fantastic, marvelous. Well, I want to spend a little time with Zach Todd here. I mentioned him earlier, marketing manager in the shop. He's making some magic with his camera, and he's going to talk to me a little bit about how we promote your business and some of the challenges with that. So I think I'll go visit Zach in his maybe his photo booth, or I think he's found a neat place for me to visit here. So
fantastic.
follow me.
All right.
Zach, I've been talking about you a little bit while I've been spending this wonderful day with Bruce. I know you because you were a guest on my podcast, and what I love about you is you represent the next generation coming into this car hobby, but you're a car guy for sure.
Oh, yeah.
First and foremost, what do you do here?
I'm the marketing manager at Canepa, so I get to do all the website stuff. I get to do all the pictures of Canepa with all the lovely cars, and I also get to manage the social media accounts and making sure everybody gets to know about Canepa.
All the fun stuff.
All the fun
Absolutely.
stuff.
Do your friends who love cars think you really work?
No.
No?
Every day they think like, oh man, you're not going to work today. I'm like, I actually do go to work, and it's a fun job. Like, it's a dream job for me.
It's a lot of work, but you do some amazing things, and I noticed that when you got involved and you started shooting the pictures, things changed because I noticed your skill set. And I know that you love to take photography, but what is maybe one of the biggest challenges you face in trying to market the best cars really that are out there for people to buy, but you still have to represent them in a very fair and honest way because they are used cars, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're collectibles, but they've been used by other people or custodians of the cars.
Right.
One of the biggest challenges is really how to portray the value of that car over the internet, because nowadays it's people buy from all over the parts of the globe,
Right.
and you have to be able to put people basically in the car seat from pictures. And unfortunately, when you have an image that's only 6 inches wide and you're trying to show like this car is worth $2 million, well, I can't see the detail. And so one of my challenges is actually taking enough pictures and marketing that car in such a way that gives them as much information as possible, either details about the story. That's one of the things, is we really make our stories accurate and almost like an auction style, where we give the entire history of the car. So that way they're the most informed when they buy the car.
Absolutely. It's really cool what you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
If there was one thing about this role you have here that you find the favorite thing, and we talked about this morning when I got here, how do you even walk around and not just stop and drool everywhere you go?
The first couple weeks of working here, I was like, this is surreal. I mean, there's no other place like this. And then within about 3 or 4 months, I was walking past 959s and a McLaren P1 every day.
Right.
I'm like, oh, it's just another 959.
Right.
And I have to really sometimes look at that and be like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm in a place that this does not exist almost anywhere else on the planet. And that's one of the best things, is when people come by for a tour and they're just blown away. And that's when you realize, like, oh yeah, that's right, this isn't normal. So,
Exactly.
but for my day, it is normal. That's why I love it playing.
You know, the crew I brought here, and I work with a great group of people to produce cars, I told them this was going to be a very special day, and I think the biggest challenge has been, hey, come over here, we got to do this shot, because
exactly.
they're always going, oh my gosh, there's another this, another that. So I'm really grateful you helped me set all this up. I know corralling Bruce can be a bit of a challenge, because Bruce is a guy that never stops moving. You made this happen, you helped this happen. I want to thank you for that, and it's really good to see you again too.
Yeah, you
We've
too.
run into each other a bunch of times. I know I'm going to be back here someday, but thank you for
very
the time
welcome.
you spent today. This
No
has been
problem.
fantastic.
Thanks for coming.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
All right. So Bruce, we're upstairs in the museum, and what I love about your shop here is you open it up to any enthusiast to come in and enjoy what you have to share here. But the top floor here, the museum is filled with some really special historic cars. These are cars that you take out, you enjoy, you share with people. What does this museum mean to you?
Well, you know, when you're growing up, if you loved racing, there were cars you could get close to, but for the most part, you couldn't get close to the majority of them. You'd get up to the fence, basically.
Right.
You know, in the old days, they really didn't let you in the paddocks, you know, and only in the last probably decade did they start really realize that was a marketing tool to let people in the paddock.
Sure.
So, you know, you had to see a lot of this stuff from afar and listen to it from afar. And really, this museum lets people see the cars in person, touch them, get close up. I mean, we don't want them to damage them, but we don't rope them off. We want to see what they are, because they're pretty incredible pieces. I tell people, I said, today's racing is all kind of standardized cars. They're all the same to some degree, either in configuration, like all the Indy cars are built by one manufacturer, the sports cars are built by 2 or 3 manufacturers, and you know, it's changed. And these cars were individual cars, and a lot of them were built starting with a road car if they were a road race car, and if they were sprint cars, starting with a you know, batch of tubing on the floor. And you know, and they were built by men who had to use their brain and their hands to build them. They didn't have computers to design them. They didn't have robots to assemble them. They were built from scratch. And then they had to figure out how to make them work. So it's really a form of art. It's high-speed art is what it is. And it allows people to see what guys could do with their hands and their brain, you know.
Absolutely.
And I liked all kinds of racing. So, you know, in this museum, you have dirt cars, which I drove, sprint cars. You have road race cars from both America and that ran at Le Mans. You've got prototype cars. You've got drag cars. You've got a little bit of everything. Indy cars. You know, we've had almost everything in here. And so we really, and it's just nice because people get to see all different kinds of disciplines of race cars. So the museum's really a chance for people to see, I'm sure for most people, cars they've never even imagined seeing, had no idea what they look like or how they were built. And you know, I get people to look inside of some of these cockpits and say, somebody sat in here, and somebody was brave enough to
Somebody
go
went 220 miles an hour
in this car. Exactly. So, and then on top of that, we use at least half a dozen of these cars are used on a regular basis in the historic races. And I tell guys, these cars are great as art to look at them, but they're even cooler when you go to the racetrack and see them running around at Monterey or wherever you happen to go, because you know, they all have very individual sounds, which they don't anymore. You know, today they're all the same engines, or they're all the same this. These cars have all their own identities, etc. So,
well, I really appreciate the fact that you have this museum, you let people come up here anytime, look at the cars, get close to the cars, and the history of the cars. And there's a couple cars in this museum that you set some records in. There's a little buggy sitting next to us here that you drove up Pikes Peak very fast in. I know that down in the shop we saw a semi-tractor trailer that you raced at Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
I mean, you've driven a lot of different cars, but I think the great thing about you, Bruce, is you share. And you participate, and you're part of the culture, part of the hobby. And the fact that you've been able to pull off what you've been able to pull off over, how long have you been in business now?
see, I've been in business on my own since '81.
81,
Yeah.
long time. This building since 13,
Yeah.
13 years ago. You and I were sitting in a trailer at Laguna Seca, and you said, Mark, I'm buying this building, Scotts Valley. It's a lot for me to bite off, but I want to build my dream. And here we sit 13, 14 years later. You're building a shop across the street, a showroom. You're going to have a building next door. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. What you've done for us in the hobby and us enthusiasts, we're really grateful. And I want to thank you for spending some time with me today up here in this museum. It's just magnificent. So again, thanks for all this time. This has been really great.
Oh, my pleasure.
Bruce, you've taken me, as usual, on an incredible ride today. I've had such a great time visiting you again. I've been here so many times, but every time I come here, I learn something new about you, about your shop, and about the cars. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing this with the Cars Yeah audience. I'm going to come back again, for sure, but until I do, I'll see you down the road, all right?
Thank
Great
you.
to see you, my friend.
Good to see you.
Okay, bye-bye. Oh, man, I love this place. It's so great.
Mark, get back here. Where's the check?
Oh, gosh.